Hello there, you caught me cleaning myself in the bathroom. You know, one of the best shaves I ever had was from a barber in Spain, near Seville. Talking of the barber of Seville reminds me of the wonderful world of song. I'm Victor Lewis Smith, and I'd like to go up your arts as we look at opera.
It is generally accepted that the very first opera worth bothering about was Orfeo.
Orfeo e Euridice in questo monte il viandatore in questo vetuante.
Orfeo was written by Claudio Monteverdi and is a tragic love tryst involving some fatal tartan frock and a tenor coughing up blood. The first performance was around 1607, which is nearly 4:10, and being opera, it was still going strong at 10 o'clock the next morning. The name Monteverdi translates into English as Mr. Green Mountain, an absurd name which set a precedent for subsequent generations of opera composers who have included Johann Fox, Joseph Suck, John Blow, George Bender, and a whole family of Benders and a gentleman from the 19th century named of Scheidt, whose Christian name is simply too offensive to be mentioned here on Mr. Boland's artistically innovative and dangerously neoteric programme. The most famous and the dullest opera composer is Richard Wagner, famous for his Tristan and Isolde. Richard Wagner only wrote opera because he failed all his Hollywood screen tests, unlike his brother Robert and sister Lindsay, who was great as a bionic woman. You know you are at a Richard Wagner show when the curtain goes up at 6 o'clock. And 3 hours later you look at your watch and it says 6:05. Wagner's music is a lot better than it sounds. It always has highly original plots involving some fat old tart in a frock and a tenor coughing up blood. Opera conductors are renowned for their breathtaking megalomania. Quiz of the week: what is the difference between a cow and an opera orchestra? Answer: the cow has the horns at the front and the arsehole at the back. The only reason opera is currently fashionable is because over lunch at La Gavroche in 1985, 2 advertising executives decided that a bit of Verdi might help to sell Italian cars. Opera is now so very trendy that there are even glossy magazines devoted to the subject. Oh God, I feel an interview coming on.
The unique sensation that opera provides
Ian Stones, Opera Now.
That complete visual and oral sensation.
Yeah. Oh really?
Which, when opera is very good, is it just completely carries you away.
Oh really?
Like nothing else.
Oh.
I think opera does a lot for the image of the MI group.
Peter Orty, opera sponsor.
Simply because opera is seen as high culture, it's seen as being extremely professional.
No. Oh, really?
The people in it have to achieve extraordinarily high standards.
Oh, quaint.
And that's what we as a company are all about.
Oh, shut your mouth. Every year, opera receives subsidy to the tune of £25 million of public money. Do you know the tune of £25 million of public money? Here it is. Bibble, bobble, bibble, bobble, bibble. Good tune, isn't it? For that amount of money, every single deprived person in the country could be bought their very own Kylie Minogue record. I should be so lucky, 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 lucky. Now that's what I call art.
I don't feel that opera justifies the enormous subsidies that it gets.
How fascinating.
Because I don't seriously think that opera is accessible enough to the people who are paying for it.
Really? These people have just sat through an hour and a half of modern English opera at Glyndebourne. It took the composer 4 years on an Arts Council grant to write, 2 years and £4 million to make the set, and 6 months of expensive rehearsals with musicians to perform this masterpiece. Here is a distillation of the brain activity of a typical member of the audience, savouring the fruits of all 3 months of artistic labour at Covent Garden.
I think I'll have a Pauline cream. Then I'll have one of those toffees. That secretary's a bit of a cracker. I wonder if Terry Wogan's actually bald. Oh, God, did I pack the Dijon mustard in the hamper? I think there's something wrong with my penis.
We were lucky enough to persuade the famous opera director, Sir Peter Hall, to talk to us via the electric telephone.
I don't think you can. And I do regret that if you go to the first night of an opera at Covent Garden, you sense there are an awful lot of people there who don't want to be there. They're only there because their firms are sponsoring the performance, and it's the thing to do to be there. Now, the only form of theatre audience that's worth having is one...
Sir Peter? Do you have another 10p? There are only 3 modern English opera composers who get performed much. Number 1 is Sir Michael Tippett. Unfortunately, Michael Tippett insists on writing his own librettos and thinks they are hip and modern, but in fact, they are as embarrassing as watching your grandfather trying to do Acid House at the Christmas party. Then there is Benjamin Britten. His operas are peopled with calipigeon young boys and always feature a gentleman who sounds as if he had a strangulated hernia and was a very close friend of both the composer and of Dorothy, which is just as well, because for many years he was Britain's most wanted man.
How old are you, boy?
I am 12, sir.
My mate wants to go out with you, boy.
Thank you. And finally, there is Sir Peter Maxwell Davies. Sir Peter seems to have inherited Van Gogh's ear for music and writes dissonant, tuneless, can't tap your feet to it, bilge, sorry, but they call me Joe Blunt in these parts. Quiz of the Week, Part 2. What is the difference between Peter Maxwell Davies and a pair of Dr. Scholl's sandals? Answer, one bugs up the feet, and the other one...
Hello. You've caught me putting my feet up enjoying Horlicks with a friend. Good heavens! Look what's written on this cup. It says BBC. That reminds me. You know, the BBC is also the name of a famous broadcasting organisation, isn't it? My name's Victor Lewis Smith. I'd like to go up your arts as we look at the BBC.
It is generally accepted that the first broadcasting organisation in the world was the BBC, which began broadcasting in 1992, the finest, the original, and the most exemplary. I'm terribly sorry. The first one was KCBS in America, which started in 1911 and was run by hillbillies with no governmental control at all. The station was shut down on the grounds that the programs were all about the unsavoury interests of its first Director General, these being bestial sadism and necrophilia. Frankly, I think he was trying to flog a dead horse. Thank God there was no trace of sexual deviancy in the BBC's first Director General, Lord Reith, a man who knew the importance of discipline, tight uniforms, discipline, smart leather caps, discipline, regular staff enemas, more discipline in setting the tone to the BBC for this day. Discipline like all large broadcasting organisations, BBC is a monolithic cafe-esque structure, not unlike the civil service with microphones. All listeners' complaints are referred upwards over a period of several months until they reach the right man, who will carefully consider it before filing it in his special round BBC filing cabinet. CFAX, a telefax system invented by the BBC, gives instant news flashes on events as they happen, like this. Well, it seems to be taking some time. We'll return to that news flash in a moment. This gentleman is John Burt, who was transferred from London Weekend Television for a record fee of £55 billion in order to transform BBC News output and revolutionise the structure of news broadcasts. So far, his principal achievement has been a sick tune that goes diddle-diddle-dum, diddle-dum, deem dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-deem, dee-dee-dee-bum-bum-bum, bim-bim-bum-bum-bim-bim-bim-bim-bim, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. The BBC motto is, "Nation shall speak peace unto nation." Its dedication to informing and educating its listeners is exemplified in Radio 1, a network aimed at the sort of people who stand halfway up ladders, wearing tank tops and jeans which expose a generous portion of buttock, listening to ugly disc jockeys with nothing between the ears but a mouth that keeps moving even though there's no clinically measurable brain activity. We're still waiting for that newsflash to appear on CFAX. Shouldn't be long. In the meantime, local BBC television is even more wretched, cheap, nasty, and existing only to fulfil the BBC Charter. The 6:30 to 7 o'clock local newsstand is a testimony to the fact that nothing newsworthy ever happens outside of London.
Good evening, and welcome to Gone West. 30 minutes of news and views from around your region. So over to Tracy for the news headlines.
A telephone box has been found with a 10p piece stuck in it. More of that later. A library has sent a local man a letter reminding him that a recently borrowed book is now 2 days overdue. We have pictures.
On BBC West tonight, Larry Grayson presents It's Your Crematorium, when one of the
But the main story of the evening, there has been a very serious spillage of sugar. Brian Empty is on the scene now.
At exactly 11:45 this morning, a woman in her 60s accidentally dropped a 1 kilo bag of sugar in between the toiletries and the frozen food counter. Mr. Smith, you are the manager of the supermarket.
Yes. Shouldn't be much longer now for that CFAX news flash. Just bear with me for a moment longer. Many people believe that the BBC is dominated by a small, tightly knit broadcasting mafia. This is not entirely true. As well as this mafia, there's also the Irish mafia.
BBC TV Centre is marked with an X. Ignore that one now. That's Sky Television. You all have your glycerin eye drops for that authentic Irish twinkle. You've all done the crash course on how to swagger from side to side like Terry Wogan. So now, repeat after me. Sure and begorra, doesn't me mother's blue eyes shine like the Derry dew? And I'd like 600,000 for next year's contract, please, Mr. Chetland.
Sure and begorra, Danny boy, doesn't me mother's brown eyes...
Undoubtedly, the greatest achievement of the BBC is That's Life, hosted by a woman best described as a sacred cow, Esther Ranson. This programme is based on the premise that all organs below the waist are highly amusing, whilst all organs above the waist are sad and tragic. And it's the job of the warm-up man to ensure that the studio audience can distinguish between the two.
Come on, everybody.
Liver cirrhosis.
Yes, somebody may have been born with no marrow in their bones, but on That's Life, it's all right, because in Rotherham, there's a dog that can say sausages.
A medical breakthrough.
However, the BBC's commitment to current affairs continues in programmes such as the 6 o'clock news.
And now, in Rotherham, a dog that says sausages.
Finally, the CFAX news flash. It's nearly there, and yes, it's coming up. The latest news on CFAX is... Lawks a lordy! President Kennedy has been assassinated.
Hello? What's that you say? You are the manager of the London Palladium? And what's that you say? Frank Sinatra is ill and you want me to take over his show tonight? And what's that you say? Even though there wasn't enough time in the last pause for you to have said anything at all. And what's that you say? Why do I keep repeating everything you say? You know, that reminds me. Frank Sinatra is one of the world's great entertainers, isn't he? I'm Victor Lewis Smith, and I'd like to go up your arts as we look at the world of showbiz.
It is generally accepted that the very first showbiz entertainer lived about 10 million years BC and was a glob of slime in a primordial cesspit that donned a bow tie and uttered the immortal mantra, "Lay gentlemen."
Darkies, winkles, poop, bums and willies. Now then, my neighbour's one of the most rudimentary life forms I know. As I always say, he may be only a primitive toadstool, but at least he's a fun guy to be with.
Although all other life forms on the planet have greatly evolved since before creation, there is an unbroken lineage between this piece of slime and the showbiz entertainers of today. They still utter the same phrase, "Lay gentlemen," and still say they're essentially shy and private people, which is why they feel the need to stand in the spotlight in front of millions of people and announce the fact. In reality, these people need bringing out of themselves like Mother Teresa needs a Dutch cap.
Well, I'm Peter Heppel, editor of the Stage and Television Today, with possibly slightly more emphasis on the stage part. I've been editor for 17 years. Before that, I was a contributor for 20, so I have been, I suppose, in and around the business, show business that is, for about 40 years or so. Show business, I think, conjures up the type of light entertainment with which I was brought up. Max Bygraves, Des O'Connor, Max Bygraves and Des O'Connor. Des O'Connor, Max Bygraves, Frankie Vaughan.
Thank you. Loveliness of Paris. This showbiz artiste sings, for some inexplicable reason, in an American accent, although the furthest west he's ever been was a trip to the BD clinic in Bristol. There are only 2 ways he could ever become a household name. One is to change his name by deed poll to Mr. Dettol Windeline J. Clough, Esquire. The other way is for him to be seen at a glamorous Variety Club luncheon where he must dress up like a dog's dinner. All showbiz people believe that artists should work their way up from the bottom and not rely upon family connections. In short, even the suggestion of nepotism would appall the likes of Paul Daniels and his son Martin, Gloria Hunniford and her daughter Karen Keating, Clement Freud and his unshaven son Emma, Marty Wilde and his daughter Kim and her fictional daughter Tracy, Jonathan Ross and his brothers Brian and Eric and Sebastian and...
My good friend, ladies and gentlemen, and a great comic actor, Mr. Tony Scott.
This man, whose greatest starring role was as the live-action Hands on Thunderbirds, is hoping that the press never discover that in his early days he took part in a pornographic all-nude version of The Sooty Show.
Be quiet, Sooty.
Goodness, Mr. Corbett.
Oh. Could this be, Sooty? Wherever you go, just stick that one. That's your... Sweet. Stop, I've told you. Come here. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Right, you gonna come quietly, son, or do I have to put cotton wool in the ears?
My name's Peter Pritchard.
Hi, Pete.
I have an agency called Peter Pritchard Limited.
Oh, lovely.
It's a theatrical agency, and it mainly deals in the light entertainment side of the industry. Clients include Bob Monkhouse, Jimmy Tarbuck,
Class.
Little and Large, Bernie Winters,
No.
the Reverend Roger Royal, Ray Allen and Lou Charles. Well, a lot of people ask agents how they justify their living.
You're going to say something funny?
We always jokingly say,
I thought so.
remember, the artists take 90% of our salary.
I can't breathe. There is nothing the showbiz people love more than a disaster, because it allows them to display their innate goodness in front of the TV cameras. Telethons exist for 3 reasons only. Firstly, because although they make TV companies look generous, they are actually very cheap television. Secondly, because it is rumoured that Joanna Lumley once took her clothes off on one in 1985, although curiously nobody ever saw this happen. And thirdly, because it provides 19 hours of national exposure for clapped-out actresses, brainless disc jockeys, angry young comedians, alternative, only in as much as they're not funny at all, and in short, the flotsam and jetsam of the entertainment world who otherwise wouldn't even get a walk-on on Michael Barrymore's Saturday Night
Every year on
Out.
Telethon, we're absolutely amazed at the generosity of you guys and the totally wild and crazy things that you, the great British public, get up to.
Wild and crazy stunts such as a sponsored nuclear holocaust or a sponsored pouring petrol over your head.
15 monks, 12 nuns, and they've raised over £200.
I bet it was hard to find the soap.
Okay, I know Brian's got a few words for everyone.
Well, this year we're collecting money for all those people who became poor and destitute after watching the last couple of telethons.
Quiz of the week. What is the difference between Bruce Forsyth and Ben Elton? Answer, Bruce Forsyth didn't spend 3 years at a posh university acquiring his Cockney accent.
I need a new tie. Good heavens, who the dickens is in my wardrobe? Why, it's Michael Caine, the famous international film artiste. Now, what on earth is a big name like that doing in my closet? That reminds me. Michael Caine's made a few films in his time, hasn't he? My name's Victor Lewis Smith, and I'd like to go up your arts as we look at foreign films.
It's generally accepted that the first art and foreign film worth bothering about was the silent movie Battleship Potemkin, made by Sergei Mikhailovich Eisenstein, a Russian director, so very long, drawn-out and tedious that he regarded a 10-hour epic as a short. His films depict Russian peoples being grabbed by the kulaks. This was a painful experience, but not as painful as having to sit through one of his films, which was shot with equipment so rudimentary that they are jumpy, fuzzy, grainy, and frequently suffer from the problem known to filmmakers as having a hair in the gate. It's a film term. The sort of person who pretends to enjoy Eisenstein is the sort of person who would also attend a Polish Film Week at the NFT, a festival of films by directors with names that wouldn't look out of place on an eye chart. Never mind.
Gromski. 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 Gromski.
Grusnik.
Da ist die Schlottste. Hilton.
Oh dear, no. I feel an interview coming on.
I think that foreign films can be, in a way, can get away with murder, because first of all, no one understands what's being said.
Michael Winham,
so you always have
film
to assume
director.
your performances are brilliant. It's impossible, really, to judge a performance in a foreign language at 100% level of appreciation.
Yeah.
So foreign films, again, tend to get great praise,
Get on
because
with
subtitles always add a certain intellectual veneer to it, you see. I think if English films were put out in a foreign language and subtitled, and they'd probably get far better praise even than they do. And,
Wake me up.
That's just the nature of critics, who are constipated.
Why are non-English language films considered to be art movies?
Jack
Well,
Malcolm.
God knows why. It's
Film critic.
rubbish.
Guardian.
Because a popular French film is not an art film in France, and a popular German film or Italian film is not an art film in Germany or Italy.
Really, Derek?
But that's the nature of things. I suppose they regard what they call the art cinema, which I prefer to call the specialist cinema.
Oh, you do you?
As to be very few people want to go and see it.
Knock me down with a
But
feather.
sometimes when you get subtitle films on Channel 4 or the BBC, you get audiences of millions
More
for
than you'll
them.
get. Watching Italian films is considered thoroughly chic. Big names here include Federico Fellini, who called his autobiographical film 8.5, though from personal experience, 17.5 would have been closer to the truth, and I should know I can hardly walk. Luchino Visconti, who worked his way up from the bottom, which would account for the harem of young boys in his films, and his devoted audience of scoutmasters. And Pier Paolo Pasolini, a dirty, filthy-minded Italian of cinematographic bent, who was known to his friends for obvious reasons as Vasolini. It is said that during the filming of 120 Days of Sodom, there were 5 special tanker deliveries of surgical jelly to the Cinecittà studios. One of Vasolini's most outrageous films, a pornographic version of Pinocchio, was banned owing to an explicit sex scene between the eponymous hero and his wife. Mrs. Pinocchio sat on her husband's face while he told lies.
Sono lemon apple. Oddio! Sono Queen Elizabeth! Oddio! Sono Robert Redford!
Swedish films are so mind-numbingly uninteresting, they all seem to have lost the will to live. The most renowned Swedish film director is Ingrid Bergman, famous for her catchphrase, "You know how to whistle, don't you? You just put your lips together and blow," not to be confused with the other famous Swedish film director, Greta Garbo, who every night sprinkled grass seed into her hair and uttered her catchphrase, "I want to be alone."
I stimulerar, I cigarette, electric toothbrush, the lamp of the street, and the ancient.
Japanese cinema, on the other hand, can never set to be dull. Every 10 seconds there is decapitation or a ritual disemboweling, and that's just from the woman in hot dogs kiosk. The directors to look out for are Nagisa Ashima, Gosho Gyo, and especially Makabe Ja, whose masterpiece involves a WW2, a Japanese pilot, who so hated female jazz singers that every year he bombed Pearl Bailey.
As a kicker, like Bermuda.